Look closely at any given patch of forest floor, and you'll see a chaotic, constant rush of activity. But beneath the movement of every insect, fungus, and fern lies one shared, undeniable objective: keeping their specific line of life going. We call this biological engine reproduction. It is the precise mechanism organisms use to create new individuals. Without it, the clock simply runs out on a generation, and a species vanishes from the earth entirely. Now, it's easy to picture reproduction as a bird laying an egg, or a mammal having a baby. But nature has developed a surprisingly diverse toolkit for making the next generation. Creating offspring is the ultimate biological imperative. It is the single barrier standing between the life that exists today and total extinction. Some organisms operate completely alone. In a process called asexual reproduction, a single parent essentially makes a perfect clone of itself. Here, a microscopic amoeba is splitting its body into two distinct cells through a process known as binary fission. This photocopying method is incredibly fast and efficient. The catch is that the offspring inherits the exact same genetic traits as the parent, with almost zero variation. Most plants and animals use a different blueprint: sexual reproduction. This requires two parents to contribute separate reproductive cells, called gametes. When a male and female gametes fuse together, they form a single new cell known as a zygote. Because it combines two different genetic codes, the resulting offspring is a completely unique individual. This hybridization builds genetic diversity within a population. Whether an organism rapidly duplicates exact replicas or slowly mixes genes to create unique offspring, both strategies solve the exact same problem: ensuring the species can endure and adapt over time. Once that new life actually begins, the journey to adulthood takes vastly different shapes depending on the species. Some animals undergo metamorphosis. This is a dramatic physical transformation, where the young hatch looking completely different from the adults they will eventually become. Take the frog. It starts life hatching into water as a tadpole, an aquatic, fish-like creature with gills and a long tail. Over a few weeks, it sprouts legs, loses that tail, develops air-breathing lungs, and hops out of the pond as a land-dwelling adult. This flowchart outlines the mosquito's 4 distinct life stages. Notice how it alternates between environments. The egg, the worm-like larva, and the comma-shaped pupa all live strictly underwater. Only the final adult stage emerges to fly in the air. This is a stark contrast to gradual development. A human baby, for instance, is essentially born as a miniature version of an adult shape, slowly growing larger over decades. Metamorphosis is a brilliant biological workaround. By changing forms, a single creature can exploit completely different habitats and food sources, like algae in a pond versus blood on land, without competing with its own offspring. This chart maps out the lifespan of various organisms. Lifespan is the time period an organism is biologically programmed to live. As you can see, it ranges wildly, from a tiny mosquito that lives just 15 days, to humans living for decades, to a giant tortoise surviving well over centuries. A creature's genetic code sets the absolute upper limit of this timeline, but external factors heavily dictate the reality. Access to food, extreme weather, and predators constantly condense or stretch an organism's actual survival time. No matter how long the timeline stretches, it always reaches the same natural conclusion: death. When an organism dies, its biological matter decays. This process breaks down complex tissues and returns critical nutrients, like carbon and nitrogen, directly back into the soil and water. In an ecosystem, death serves a highly functional purpose. It is a necessary systemic reset that clears physical space and provides the raw chemical resources required to fuel the next generation. Once we map out exactly how these timelines function, we stop being passive observers. We can apply this biological knowledge to solve very real human problems. Knowing the mosquito's life cycle reveals its greatest vulnerability. The larva and pupa require stagnant water to develop. Simply draining that water completely cuts the timeline short. The cycle is broken before the pupa can mature and fly. By targeting specific environmental vulnerabilities like this, communities can actively prevent the spread of diseases like dengue and malaria without relying solely on heavy chemical sprays. This same understanding allows us to actively protect the life cycles that keep our planet healthy, especially when it comes to pollinators. When we design environments that cater to the life stages of bees and butterflies, like planting specific native flowers, we provide the exact fuel they need to reach maturity and multiply. In return, they carry pollen from plant to plant, directly enabling those plants to reproduce. This microscopic exchange scales up incredibly fast. Our entire agricultural system and the food on our tables relies entirely on the successful life cycles of these insects. This massive, interconnected richness of overlapping life cycles succeeding together is what we call biodiversity. Every organism, from an amoeba to a human, plays a distinct structural role in this network. Understanding the sheer mechanics of how life grows, adapts, and expires gives us the exact tools we need. We become active environmental stewards, equipped to protect the delicate, continuous loop of life on Earth.